Salutations, this is Frags, and in this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about Age of Empires 4, what I liked about it. I've played the open beta and the recently concluded technical stress test, I think it was called. There's the multiplayer, a little bit of the skirmish and stuff, so we still don't know much about how the single player is going to be, but I kind of have an idea. What I can say about Age of Empires 4 is that it is very much set in the foundation of Age of Empires 2, and then I guess the developers sort of went, okay, we are using Age of Empires 2 as our base, as our foundation, and how can we sort of give it a modern twist, a modern take to it without changing that foundation. I guess it is really good. I would say it's positive. I think most of the people had a very positive opinion of it. If there's one thing that's to be said about AoE 4, it's not really taking many chances. It's not as ambitious, I guess, in terms of actually changing things up. It's not really changing things up, but there's some pretty cool things, and in this video I just want to highlight the 5 things I really like about Age of Empires 4. And the first thing that I like about it is the civilizations. Basically, this is something that I've said previously in my writings and even videos, I guess, that I've done previously, is that Age of Empires force I think 8 civilizations, right? There's 8 civilizations: the English, the Holy Roman Empire, the French, which we have not seen the French yet, the Rus, the Chinese, the Abbasid, Delhi Sultanate, and the Mongols. Yeah, there's also the Mongols. Is that 8? Yeah, that's 8. So a lot of them have their own little thing, their own little twist. Like for instance, it's not quite the level of StarCraft, right? Because they are all humans, right? StarCraft is a bunch of different aliens and stuff, and humans is just one of the factions. Age of Empires 4 isn't really like StarCraft, like totally different. They have some similarities between them, but a lot of the factions have really different sort of mechanics to them. Like for instance, the Chinese has this character, this I guess it's official whatever. It's basically a tax collector. He goes around collecting tax of all the different buildings you build. And then I think the Holy Roman Empire actually has a character that he's a religious unit, but he doesn't just inspire your frontline troops. He actually can inspire your workers to gather stuff much faster, which is a pretty huge like bonus. And I think the Abbasid, the way they actually age up is quite different, using house of worships and golden ages. It's really different, and I really like it. Oh, and the Mongols, right? The Mongols can actually like fold up their things and basically move their entire base, Okay, so I guess that is sort of like the Terrans in StarCraft, I guess. But yeah, the Mongols can actually move their base, which is very interesting. The second thing I like about Age of Empires 4 is that they've made aging up something different from Age of Empires 2, which actually in Age of Empires 2, once you have enough resources, you just hit the button and then you age up and you get a bunch of units and stuff. Like in Age of Empires 4, you have some things called landmarks. So these are buildings that you build, and on top of that, you've got a choice of landmarks. So once you age up to feudal, for instance, you'll be given a choice of, do you want landmark A or landmark B? Generally, but not always the case, these 2 landmarks have 2 different type of benefits. Some of them tend to focus on defense, some of them tend to focus on offense or economy or military, that sort of thing. So picking your landmark at each time you age up also can change like your play. It's not just your unit build, right? It's also the landmark that you pick and the bonuses you gain from that landmark. Pretty cool thing that actually adds up to the strategic depth of Age of Empires 4, I must say that. One thing of note, I must say, this is definitely one factor that I really like in Age of Empires 4, is the sound design.
Rapture, lass. Off to Delphin.
The sound design is so incredibly awesome. Like every single element of the thing, there are sound cues to you, like the scout finding an enemy. When your villagers spot an enemy, they'll be shouting and screaming and stuff. And when your military units sort of clash in battle, they start screaming and shouting, and it's like so amazing. You can just figure out what's happening in the map by hearing the sound. But I've got to say that the footsteps, the sound of the footsteps your units make is kind of loud. You don't really hear like footsteps that loud though, but I guess they sort of did that to sort of, again, the sound cue thing, to make you realize that, oh, there are troops moving into here, and so on and so forth. And also, did you know that actually if you move your units into the stealth forest, right, instead of the footsteps, things get quiet and your units actually start whispering instead of like acknowledging your orders actually. They start whispering actually, which actually gets to the fourth point of what I like about Age of Empires 4 is the stealth forest. The stealth forest is something new. So basically there are two types of forests in Age of Empires 4, right? One is a regular forest. You can see the trees are sort of clumped together really closely, and the stealth forest basically has trees like a little bit apart, a little bit, so you can move any units through stealth forest. But what stealth forest does is that when you move a unit into stealth forest, you can still see your surrounding, but any unit outside of the stealth forest cannot, except for your own unit of course, but the enemy cannot see anything that's hidden in the stealth forest. So one of the cool, I think, strategies that I've seen in multiplayer is that some people actually move their scouts to actually the stealth forest. So the scout becomes sort of like a spy cam of sorts, I guess, you know, in the front lines where these stealth forests are. And also some people sort of hide their units, like they have armies there, so that if the enemy does not actually try to check through the stealth forest, they don't know what the unit composition is like actually. So it's a pretty cool thing. There's still a lot of things that people have not actually played around with the stealth forest. You know, I don't think there is much benefit in terms of you could ambush, I guess, you know, you could ambush in some ways, but I guess this thing over time, the meta is that people will immediately just figure out they got to like put a unit in stealth forest in all the stealth forests to make sure that they are not caught by surprise. So that's the fourth thing that I really like about Age of Empires 4. Now, the final thing that I like about Age of Empires 4, I mean, it's not the last thing that I like in Age of Empires 4, but it's the last thing in this video, is the Scout. I like what they've done to the Scout. The Scout used to be a unit that you just move out and try searching what the enemy is doing and find ships and stuff, and then, but what they've done in AoE 4 is that the Scout is now a unit that you can really quickly like pick up the sheeps follow your scout. So instead of the sheep sort of slowly moving, you got to actually bring back the scout this time to bring back the sheep. And by the way, a little tip, maybe many people don't know this, you just right click on that town center. I know it's probably not a town center, but you right click on the town center and the scout drops off whatever sheep that you've collected. So the scout sort of like acts as a herder, which is correct. Basically that's what a lot of people use, as a herder for sheep to bring the sheep back into your town center area. And also, you know, I think there's still some like deer luring, right? You could actually move your scout towards the deer and sort of chase it towards your this thing. One of the cool things is the Rus. The Rus. Is it the Rus or the Rus? I think it's the Rus, right? The Russians. So it's the Rus. The Rus scout, they have an additional function of like being able to like kill deers and to put deers, the dead deers basically, on the backs of their horses and bring them to the town center. Actually, that's pretty cool. So you don't need to like lure them or send like villagers to actually hunt for them. So I think they've made a really nice change to the scout, which makes it a lot more useful in a way, I guess, you know, but without actually requiring so much of micro. So that's cool. So that's my pick of the 5 things that I like in Age of Empires 4. Have you played Age of Empires 4? What are you looking forward to actually Age of Empires 4? Are you looking for skirmish maps, co-op or multiplayer? Or are you really into the single player? Tell me what you think about your experience of playing it if you have played it. And yeah, that's it. I will see you on the next video and hopefully on the battlefield on Age of Empires 4 once it releases on October 28th. This is Frags signing out.